Good morning, everybody. Well, a happy Thursday to all across the Delaware Valley. This is the Anthony Gargano Show, brought to you by the Bet Park Sportsbook and Casino app. All right, lots to get into today. So we got a little bit of everything for you coming up at 9:25. We'll talk to Jim Salisbury. We'll get into the little fightings. The streak came to an end. I don't know about you guys, but when they're rallying in the ninth inning, it's funny. Julia, our executive producer, had left a little earlier. I think she left, the seventh inning? Eighth inning, right? And she's like, oh, my lucky slides aren't working. And so she left, and all of a sudden, the ninth inning begins like the rally. And it's second and third, and I'm like, oh my God, here it comes. Base hit ties the game. And Clemens was up. And he just, those high pitches, man, you got to stay away from that high stuff. You pop it up, and you just get under it, you pop it up. Shame, right? The streak, you're going to lose games. It's baseball. It's part of what it is. But it was, I actually thought they were going to rally and win the game. I was like, here it is. They're going to come back. They're just on fire. We'll talk to Jimmy, and who is one of the preeminent baseball writers and baseball voices in the Delaware Valley. So we'll talk to Jim Salisbury. Come up 9:25. Sit down today. We'll be with Baldy. I have a bit of a football itch, so we'll talk to Baldy a little bit. But I want to start off with some basketball. All right? I want to start off with the most pivotal offseason in Sixers history, right? Like, we all know the story. You got Embiid and you got Maxey, and then you have this blank canvas to fill around. But who? And you know the names by now, right? Like, I don't know about you, but I listen to every bit of a rumor. I talk to people. So I talked to a bunch of people yesterday and this morning. And, here's my update. And this is kind of what, and the NBA's fluid and guys have, crazy changes of heart and the whole thing. But I'm going to give you the kind of who's out there, the possibilities, and the likelihood. So let's start off with the big names, right? So LeBron James, to me, I love LeBron for this team. I just think he's a guy that can lead them to win, that can teach them how to win. But, that's an unlikely scenario. It appears like he's not leaving L.A., that he's at home there and he's going to stay there, and that he's not going to title chase. Even though, and this is obvious, that if you're talking about legacy and you're looking to chase Jordan for chips, that Philadelphia would make a lot of sense playing with Joe and Tyrese. But it appears he'll stay. Then, of course, Jimmy Butler. Every day there's a new Jimmy Butler, rumor, talk with the whole thing. So I hear that's unlikely. That it's not likely, but the opposite, unlikely. There's two things at play here. One, that they're going to have to trade assets for him. So you have to trade for him, and additionally, there's a thought that says he's going to use the Sixers' leverage to get the extension in Miami, and then that'll be his last contract. So I'm told that is unlikely. Possible, but very, very slim. There's two other names that you'd have to kind of figure out. One, and I like this. I like Brandon Ingram. Call me crazy, but I like Brandon Ingram. I just think as a wing, he fits, right? I know he came up small in the playoffs and the whole thing in New Orleans, but I like, he's a wing. He does a lot of different things on the floor, right? So I like him as a fit. That is a possibility. Not probable, but possible. So Ingram is possible. The guy I love, and I just don't know how you get him, and you're going to have to trade assets, and you're going to have to deal with Danny Ainge is Lauri Markkanen, because I think Markkanen is a perfect kind of fit with Embiid, right? He could fill it up, he could rebound, right? Stretch forward, does all that stuff. So I like Markkanen. You just have to be able to deal with Ainge, and again, the assets are an issue, right? Now you have picks, but you don't have players. So that's one of the things. Now you have all that roster flexibility and cap space that you can kind of use. So I hear that is a possibility. I know that they like Markkanen. I think they like Brandon Ingram. And that brings us to the most likely. I think it will be an option, and that's Paul George. So Paul George appears to be the likeliest option. Now, I just wonder, he's LA all the way, right? There's a reason why he went back to LA. He's a tremendous talent, and obviously he'll fit with Embiid and Maxey. But is he a guy that works here? Is he a guy that you have to worry about being in the lineup, right? Like the injuries. That's the same thing with Jimmy. Like at this stage of Jimmy's career, like you love Jimmy's tenacity and you love his attitude, but you're worried about whether or not he's going to play. You already got that with Joel. Do you need another guy like that? You need somebody that's going to come in and play 72 games, right? That you don't have to worry about it. So whether that's Ingram or Markkanen, somebody like that you have to trade for. Paul George, I have that wonder about. And the other thing about Paul George is, and he's a tremendous player, right? And his skill set is really a perfect fit because he fits next to Maxey as well. Because if you want Maxey off the ball sometimes, you got Paul George as that secondary kind of ball handler, facilitator. He fits so well next to Maxey and with Embiid. But can he also handle Philadelphia? I don't know. That's the one thing. He seems pretty sensitive. Not to say that, we're a pack of wild dogs, but, we understand how the pressure it is to win, especially that this is the last, real shot. This is it. This is why this offseason is so fascinating, because it all comes down to this. It all comes down. Joel Embiid's career, you want to call the fate of the process or the process over and whatever. We can argue about semantics. But all that stuff, the last dozen years of Sixers basketball is at stake, right? This is your last chance. 30 years old, whoever you marry, and this is who you're picking suitors. You're picking someone to marry. And that's how crucial this offseason is for Daryl Morey. You got to get it right. And there's some risks there when you talk about Paul George. Now, you have to consider the source here. Evan Turner, and we remember E.T. from here, right? E.T. is a bit of a character, but I found it interesting. This is what he had to say yesterday on one of his podcasts. So it would be the softest duo in the history of the NBA, is what he says, right? Yeah. And the availability piece is utterly frightening, right? But the one thing Evan Turner said, and he's not wrong, is how tremendously skilled they would be together. Like when you're playing Embiid, Paul George, and Maxey, I mean, that's a legitimate big three. But do they have the grit, right? Does Paul George add grit? No. He adds tremendous talent. It would be a fascinating watch. But like Evan Turner said, how scary would that be? And is he going to show up for you? That's what you worry about with Paul George. So there you have it. That's really the crux of who's available and kind of what state. I'm kind of raising my hand for Brandon Ingram only because I know he's going to play, and I just think he slides into it. I love marketing. I think those two kind of fit. LeBron's not going to happen. I would love him. And again, the Jimmy thing's another. Just like we love his will to win, and he could show them how to win. But at this stage of his career, you're going to give him a lot of money, and is he going to be available? How does he atrophy, right? Like, LeBron is like Brady, right? He's a machine. So you don't have any fear about that. But I don't know about Jimmy in that sense. And then Paul George could be another great tease in a history of teases. That's Popping Off, brought to you by Olipop, the soda that not only tastes good, but it's good for you. Yeah, it's actually good for you. Olipop, find it at your nearest Wawa. Good morning, JP, John Zapata.
Buenos dias, cuz. How we feeling?
Look, now that's an awesome jersey.
I appreciate that, cuz. This is my Porto fans out there. FC Porto. Went to Portugal last year, and I fell in love with this club, fell in love with the town, so I had to cop the shirt.
Did you go to a match?
I did not, but one thing I always recommend, if you can't catch a game, stadium tours are a thing in Europe. Like, they will give you a tour of the stadium, and it's really cool. You get to go into like the locker room. You get to sit where the coach sits for the press conferences, and of course, you get to see the field, which is really, really cool.
That's wild.
Yeah,
that's how many soccer jerseys do you have?
Not as many as Andrew, but I have a lot of jerseys overall. Like, I have a lot of Flyers, Phillies, Sixers, Eagles, and Union. But I like to collect some of these European ones as well because it's
that's a
different.
Cool jersey.
Yeah, like we talked about yesterday.
How about it, Jules? That's a nice jersey, right?
I don't like collecting like Bulls jerseys, Yankees. No. I don't. And if it's not Philly, it's not for me. So these are my exception. These ones will be my exception.
Well, it makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's actually cool.
Speaking of which, I do have an Evan Turner jersey, by the way.
You have an ET?
Yeah. Well, listen,
ET was a character, man.
It was it winter?
Tough dude, ET.
It was
ET. Like, not for nothing. He was a tough dude. He just.
Yeah. Well, it was the winter of 2012, and it was, do I go Drew Holiday, Andrew Bynum, or Evan Turner?
Oh, my God. You know what's amazing, though? Drew Holiday still playing.
Turned
out to be a terrific ball player. Turned out to be a great defender.
He started the process,
too. A really good. Yes.
That trade started.
It's amazing. Like, you look at some of the guys that were here that turned out to be players. Let's not talk about Bridges, right?
Well, we were just geeking out over T.J. McConnell.
I was about to say the same thing. T.J. McConnell last night, 10 points, 12 assists, 4 rebounds. And the night before, he's had an amazing playoff run.
Yeah. We're talking about how
last series against Cleveland, he played tremendous in the deciding game.
He is an amazing role player.
He's a role player, yeah.
But we're talking about how do we reconstruct this team, because you talked about the open canvas is super fun, yes. But like for myself, cause obviously would love a Jimmy here, would love a LeBron, a PG, but like what we've seen in these past couple playoff eliminations, cause it's these role players that have been killing us. The Tank McBrides, Kevin Herter from the Atlanta Hawks destroyed Seth Curry at 2021 series.
Well, you just got to look at the league, right? Like, I don't know that the big three has failed.
Yeah, it's not really a thing anymore.
Brooklyn became a disaster.
Mm-hmm.
I'll never forget, it was around this time, maybe a little later, when the original Harden, Durant, Kyrie got together. Remember that?
Yeah.
I'll never forget. Driving around, I heard the news. I'm like, wow, the three of them together. And it turned out to be an unmitigated disaster.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
And then Phoenix tries to replicate it with Booker, KD, and Beal. And that's a disaster.
Mm-hmm. You need to spread out that. You need to spread out that well throughout the roster, cuz
Well,
you need
you also need heart players.
That's the other thing too.
And let's talk about last night. And Josh Hart last night, 19 points, 15 boards,
Oh, man.
7 assists, a block, a steal, and he plays 48 minutes. Who's got the biggest heart on the planet when it comes to basketball? Josh Hart does.
Talk about stepping up in the playoffs. I mean, the Knicks have had a couple players. I think I saw a graphic where they showed the Knicks bench at the beginning of the season. Hartenstein was in there, McBride was in there, DiVincenzo, Josh Hart are in there, and now Thibodeau has to rely on these players because of injury, and just because these guys have flat out just stepped up in a huge way, and Tibbs is going to keep running those guys into the ground.
48 minutes.
Yeah, that's
48 minutes. I can't wait. We're going to be talking to Jay Wright tomorrow.
Can't wait.
All right. So Jay Wright will be on the show with us tomorrow. So I'm looking forward to, the Villanova, 3, as they're called in New York. Well, he's a Villanova player. Like, that became the ultimate attribute, right? The Villanova player.
Yeah.
And you watched it last night. Now, I will say this. Dude, the way this series is officiating, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I've never been. I believe in the sanctity of sport, right? Do I think that there are, rogue officials, Donaghy, whatever you want to call it, right? I get that stuff, right? But
speaking of Villanova.
Right. But when I think about, do I think that the NBA is orchestrated? No, I don't. However, the calls, dude, the Pacers have submitted, like, you get to submit calls to New York,
Right.
to be reviewed.
We did that too in the first round.
Yes, yeah, everybody does it. 78 calls in the first 2 games. 78.
That's insane, cuz.
That's insane. 49 plays from last night's game, too. 49. Like, they thought there were 49 bad calls. What? I've never heard anything like that.
Well, we always have this conversation.
In two games, there you go. Listen, I get home cooking, but give me a break, man. That's barbecue.
But these guys don't ever get held accountable either. Because, thing is game's over, right? Players, if they have a bad game, they go in front of the podium, they answer to it. Refs, they have a bad game, right to the locker room, right outside, and then their day is done. But we always have this conversation, what do you do? Like, the big one is baseball, right? Like,
yes.
with the ump, the strike zone, it's always questionable with some of the calls that they make here. It's just what do you do? Because obviously you're not taking these umps, these referees away. There's something called the union, ladies and gentlemen. So that's always tough. They always bring up the whole robo ump, right? You can't really do that in basketball, though.
Listen, we talked about that, I think, with Buster, that's going to be a big... They're going to institute that challenge.
We can't have Angel Hernandez doing his thing anymore.
They're going to be challenging balls and strikes.
Should. Absolutely should be. But no, that, it's just, and the worst part about it is this isn't regular season. This is the playoffs, dude.
Yeah.
This is big time basketball.
There's always been that specter that has surrounded that league more than any other league.
Yeah.
That league, right? From the Knicks getting Patrick Ewing back in the day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? To frozen lottery balls and cards with a crease in them. There's always been these talk these urban legends. But the one thing that's crazy about it is obviously Celtics, Knicks would be an incredible story for the Eastern Conference, right? And Boston's going to win, but still. They would love that.
What are you telling me, cuz? Are you telling me?
I'm not telling you anything.
No, because listen.
No, I'm just... This is the conspiracy theorist that says that.
But I don't want to see that because we just talked about it too. Like there's a potential that we could have NHL, NBA, Eastern Conference
that's
Final.
happening. Are you talking about Celtics and Knicks? Yeah,
Yeah, Celtics, Knicks, Bruins, and Rangers.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
I know. No, that's a great.
We all silly like the mayor.